Hello, everybody. I am the Dark One, Steve the Skinwalker, and I'm here to introduce you today to a legendary being, a brain who is said to be immortal. I give you Cryptidmaster. All right. And hello everybody. Welcome to my channel. I'm your host, Cryptidmasterkd. That's me, your beloved host, Cryptidmasterkd. And the terrifying creature drinking your livestock's blood to preserve my 5,000-year lifespan. And in today's video, we are going to be discussing a legendary being who one of my beloved channel fans actually requested to me. A horrifying creature known to all peoples by many names around the world as a vampire. Yes, indeed, the time has come for vampires to take their stand on this channel. And I hope you guys are going to enjoy it. I know a lot of you enjoy my content. And I know that you guys pretty much requested something like this because it's one I never talked about in any of my past videos. But, however, we're going to bring it to life now. But before we get into today's video, please like and subscribe, hit like, and all that good stuff. It really helps my channel out. Please listen to him, or I'm coming after you. Shut up, Skinwalker. All right. Now, before we get into more of this riffraff, I want to share with you my new intro that I don't know if it's better than my last one. I want you guys to be the judge. Which one of these do you think is better? But here is my all-time intro. One I'm trying out. I'm trying out this intro. Anyway, here we go. Won't you spare me over till another Well, now, that was great. I really enjoyed it too. Alright, in today's video, now that that's out of the way, let's get into this. Let's start out with the simplest. What is a vampire? Now, we all have heard tales of vampires, blood-sucking beings that prey on the living. And nowadays, we also got some good animes about them, like Hotel Transylvania, Castlevania, and Vampire in the Garden, which I really enjoyed, even though most people said it was depressing. Anyway, in start, a vampire is a person or an entity, living or neither living nor dead, that steals your life force and has also drinks your blood, even though I'd rather it be like one of those hentai vampires. Anyway, vampires in general are altogether very dangerous creatures. They've been around for centuries. Tales since the beginning of vampires has been around for thousands of years, including one who got his name Vlad Tepes. But that's not who we're talking about today. Sorry, Ian. Anyway, vampires have been called many names all around the world. There's the Strigoi in Romania. There's the Jiangxi in China. The Yanamayahu in Australia. And many, many others who have been known. In India, they're described in their folk tales too. But anyway, as we know, vampires have been known throughout our native history, alongside werewolves, to be somewhat of a legendary creature. However, one of the recent hotspots for vampires in modern days has been in New Orleans. And how did they get to New Orleans, you ask? Well, it's said back in the 1700s that a group of strange women came to a convent inside New Orleans. And they were called the box ladies because they brought in strange coffin-like boxes. And according to legend, they unleashed the vampires within the attic of the convent. And it said that they drank all the sisters dry. Now, vampires in general are bloodsuckers, yes. There's several types of vampires, like the Strigoi, the vampire that we all know who wears black and seduces women and drinks of their blood. There's even one in the paranormal world known as a vent energy vampire who feeds off the negative emotions from humans. Anyway, now, I know what you're all going to think too. I want to go to New Orleans and I want to find these vampires and stake them or learn more about the vampire culture. Well, as many people in the areas are claiming to be vampires, they are people who are known as vampirism people. But anyway, I would advise you against that. Because, from one story that I've heard, a man who came to New Orleans, a man who wanted to see and learn about the vampire culture, went to New Orleans on the dark road at night to find vampires. Unfortunately, this event cost him his life. He went missing for a week. And later on, police found him in his hot tub. This is gruesome, so get the kids out of the room. But he was found skinned, and like an animal, skinned, and all his blood was missing. A terrifying thing, am I right? Very terrifying indeed. Skinned. I know, right? It's terrifying. There have been many cases in New Orleans with vampires who prey on the living, and cases where people would be found months after disappearing, completely drained of blood. Now, I have heard many tales about vampires, and you're probably thinking the answer is yes, they can be killed, but you're probably thinking, aren't they immortal? Well, my answer is maybe. However, that's not mostly true. You see, vampires can go into deep sleep, known as hibernation, and they can stay that way for many centuries in order to stay alive and wait until there's plenty of blood around. Many people have heard this from vampire hunters. Yes, that's a thing. The once people I heard about these vampires, I have two great stories here for all of you vampire lovers. However, many people have, claimed to see vampires, many claim vampires have been around for a while and that they drink blood. Well, the truth is, they drink the life force out of you. And blood is one of the main principles of life force. But, while we don't know many accounts of actual vampires, this first story that I'm going to tell you is about a woman who became a blood-soaking tyrant. A woman who actually bathed herself in blood. Literally. Her name was Elizabeth Baphomet. She lived in the 1500s in the 16th century Hungary, which is a part of Romania. Her husband once fought against the Turks, and a lot of stuff was unknown about him. but she became, and she was known, Elizabeth was known for being, she was known for her bloodlust. And and according to legend, to the records of the time, she's no myth. She actually existed at one time in the 1500s. And during this time, she would have, according to the stories, you see, according to the stories of Elizabeth, it is said that one of her servants, while attending to her, cut herself or drew blood on herself. And eventually, and the blood spurted from her body onto the countess. At first, she was infuriated, but then when she looked in the mirror and wiped off the blood, it is said that she saw that her skin looked healthy and young and beautiful. And from then on, she actually murdered peasants and nobles and others. It is said that she actually bathed in the blood of these poor women. And it is said that many times that she felt young. She thought, you see, that bathing in the blood of young women would keep her young. Now we just go to the plastic surgeon. I mean, come on. Bathing in blood to keep you young? Should I try that? Leave it in the comments. Do you think I should try bathing in... I'm not bathing in human blood, but maybe animal blood to keep me young. I don't know. Maybe you leave it in the comments. Do you think I should try bathing in blood? I think that would work better if I just talk in a banana. I'm actually scared for myself saying that. I mean, seriously, bathing in blood of women to keep yourself young. I mean, come on! See, this is the reason I'm glad I live in this century, because we all know that bathing in blood is a thing of the past, except for in cults and stuff. But anyway, her story, what happened to her anyway after that? Back to the story. Not long after Elizabeth one day was bathing in blood, a group of the king's soldiers caught her, and later she was found guilty for the murder of 350 young women. Yeah, that's right. She murdered and drained 350 young women, or 55 young women, to feed her vanity and restore her youth. But the records don't say that she ever drank the blood of her victims like a vampire. However, in my theory, though, her worst atrocities didn't happen until after she was dead. If you know what I mean. But anyway, she was condemned to prison. She was walled up in her quarters. And for 6 years, 6 or 4 years, she rotted away in her own chambers, unable to escape. And while she was in prison, she died not too long after. And wherever she is now, I honestly don't know what to say about her. And while there's no records of her drinking blood, her story is not myth, it's fact. There are records of her existence dating back centuries. Now, my second story I'm going to tell you took place in, I think it was in Maine, somewhere I think in the east. The story I'm going to tell you is both interesting but a heartbreaking story. And it is gruesome, so be warned. According to a local legend story, a man and his beloved wife immigrated from Ireland to the U.S. into a nice little home here in the U.S. And in that time they were here, they had no children, but the husband was always away at work, and left his wife alone. And for unknown reasons, she fell into a deep, deep depression and despair and sadness. Well, too bad she wasn't from Berserk. She would have just used a Balin. I like that manga. Anyway, she fell into a very, very deep depression. And his wife, who we'll call Julia, for, protection of her identity purposes, Julia became so in depths of depression. One day, she finally snapped. She could not take the pain anymore. And, she went into the river outside her house. And, I don't know if I can say this on YouTube, but she, oomped herself. I'm gonna risk and say that. And she died in the river. And when her husband came home and couldn't find her, her husband came and couldn't find her. He found her dead in the river. Now, she was taken to a Catholic church. And now the man was a traditional with Irish mythology. And according to legend, any person who dies in that fashion and isn't buried on holy ground, she was buried in a cemetery. She was brought to the Catholic Church. But if she was, because of what she did, she would be condemned to become a vampire. And this is what the husband came to know to be true. One day, a relative of hers came to pay her respects. And she came to where her family member had laid what her coffin was in the church. Anyway, she was surprised to see that the coffin was empty. And she, according to the story, she saw her deceased relative standing in front of her looking at her. And she was paralyzed either with fear or excitement. And this is probably what happened. You see, vampires, especially newborn ones, have the ability to ensnare their prey with a telepathic bond, especially if you lock eyes with one. They can stun you with a telepathic bond. And that's what happened to her. She became totally paralyzed. She was helpless as the vampire wife sunk her teeth into the poor girl. And that's exactly what it sounded like. Anyway, the poor girl was found later dead, completely drained of her blood. The husband knew from his native Ireland who was responsible. And for the next few days, people were showing up dead and there have been sightings of her roaming around. And people turned up dead, drained of blood. Finally, the husband, knowing his mythology, just like me, from his native Ireland, knew that action had to be stopped, had to be done. And so, according to his native Ireland story, while in most cases the vampire had to be killed, and in most stories with vampires, these are some fun facts for you. Vampires, if you stab a vampire through the heart with a silver or wooden stake, it will kill them. However, and sunlight will kill them. However, sunlight burns a vampire, but it doesn't necessarily kill them. But according to the stories, the man knew from his native Ireland that the only way to destroy this vampire was to cut off her head and, well, take care of it. He had to cut off the head and separate it from the body. That's one way, and sure way, to kill a vampire. But come on, who wouldn't that kill? Anyway, he went to the church with a butcher knife, opened the coffin, and he saw his beloved wife there, completely fresh and young, as if she was still alive. And as she laid there dead, he almost had several urges to kiss her. But he had to remain strong. So, with a noble heart, he used the knife and cut off her head. And of course, he got in trouble for that, for desecrating a body. But, he charges were dropped when he said he was killing a vampire. I don't know that for a fact. But anyway, after that, the attack stopped. Now, you see, throughout many years of the era, people have dreaded vampires and went through extreme measures to make sure the undead stay dead. They would put chains around coffins. They would put stakes through the heart or through the hands or even a nail in the head. And this was said, it is even said that the Greeks buried vampires on small islands surrounded by running water so they couldn't escape. And while that is an interesting fact, we don't know for sure what could have been. But anyway, I'm going to wrap up this video. I've taken long enough. I'm going to post a short in a few minutes. Anyway, if you enjoy my content, please shut up. If you enjoy this content, please like, favorite, and subscribe. As always, I love you all. Let's hit 1,000 subscribers this year. I know we can do it. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. I love you all. And remember your rule. I love you all. Peace out.